for looking at this word. This um yeah, we can start, I guess. That's 13 happy people in the chat. That's pretty amazing. Unfortunately, everyone else is not happy. Yeah, you want to start, Bianca?
Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to Building Your Brand Without Selling Out, a talk on personal branding, but with the authenticity element from me and Chia. Yay! Next.
Yeah. So thank you again, guys, for coming to this talk. It's 9 p.m. on Wednesday. I'm gonna do the week. Alexis. Okay, I'm gonna stop looking at the chat. Yeah, thank you again for coming. So just to share and do your spiel, this event is part of the Developh Assembly. So it's essentially just a bit over a week celebration of us in this tech for social good nonprofit, kind of sharing our knowledge. We've learned a lot while building initiatives, opportunities, and programs for students, getting them into technology, creation, and programming across Southeast Asia in the past years. And it's really a lot of us just getting together as a core team and sharing our knowledge and learnings impromptu. So we hope that you find this talk insightful, and we're super glad to have 56 of you here today. So well, coming up with this workshop, kind of the audience we had in mind is any student who wants to kind of up their career game. And this is totally for any type of creator. If you're a technologist, designer, artist, PM, or anyone who's like basically anyone under the umbrella of the entire Developh community, you're super welcome here. I think this talk also focuses a lot on the creative side of things. Bianca is an artist and I'm more of a techie. So you'll be hearing a lot of that. And whether you're already creating content or not, this talk is for you. And we hope that this helps you in getting more opportunities career-wise, or if you want to speak in events or just like meet new people. Yeah, we shared this. Well, you guys were all waiting, but then again, if you haven't shared yet, we'd love to hear what your personal brand is. It can be someone who's happy, or you can go more specific. I would love to know what types of creators are in our audience. If there are more designers, if there are more developers, or if you're just like a student still learning about technology and dipping your hands into the field. Would love to hear how you describe yourself. And again, like Bianca said, there's no strict way to define what a brand looks like, and we'll be emphasizing that more in this talk. But let's start with our introductions.
Hi everyone. I'm Bianca. I'm currently Developh's Chief Design Officer, where I design like not just like typical pubs and stuff, but like community-centered experiences in general, like this assembly. One of the ideas from our community research actually came from, this. And aside from that, I've been designing for like brands and startups since high school. So yeah, lots of experience there. And I'm currently like a student at Ateneo studying design and CS. Yay. That's my professional persona. But in reality, kind of sad. Like, I feel like I try hard at many things, but I'm sadly like not as good as how people think I am. Like, for instance, like being an artist, even if I've been like making art like my whole life, I feel like I'm still need to like do more because there's so much people like doing art every day or dancing every day, and it's I know people aren't supposed to compare, but you know when you're on social media every day, you just can't like help it. So yeah, real. And how about you, Chia? Tell us about yourself.
Okay, this is literally just a copy pasted from my LinkedIn headline. And I kind of don't want to read it because it's embarrassing after seeing the chat. Right. Yeah, I'm the founder of Developh, and I currently lead its operations. I don't look like it, but I've spoken at different events, and probably my biggest audience so far was when I spoke at the world's largest women in tech conference after winning the Student of Vision Award back in 2018. And I'm currently about to enter my third year studying CS and art. That is my profile if you want to connect with me. But who am I really? I feel like I just discovered this last year, but I would totally be a music journalist if tech wasn't such a profitable field and if the music industry wasn't dying right now. Something interesting about me is I have this long-term world building project where basically I have this like private wiki and website where I just like dump like sketches and maps and drawings that I've done since I was like a child. And I just like write random stories with like a bunch of OCs. And I've never showed it to anyone, and I probably won't until maybe I'm dying. And that's something I'm super proud of that I don't really tell people about. And I love jokes, unironically. But yeah, the thing that Bianca and I wanted to point out by showing our kind of LinkedIn self, and also whatever you may deem that second slide to be, is that we don't really hide those sides of ourselves in our professional presences. So this is just like a very small selection of things, but these are just like screenshots directly lifted from our website. Yeah, this is far more interesting because I just have like a screenshot of my last FM profile, if anyone still uses that platform. But we're super open, I think, about both sides of our personas, whether it's loving Dungeons and Dragons, despite sucking at it, or woo Sudosan. I don't even know what that is, Bianca. Uh, and basically, the goal that we have in this for this talk is to show you that the kind of self that you have in whatever version of yourself in those two slides may be. Um, your professional brand can be your authentic self. So I think like a lot of students have the perception that, when you think about how you market yourself career-wise, you have to be incredibly different. You have to put in this like fake persona. You have to like make LinkedIn
All the
posts or
hashtags.
something. Yeah.
You
And
hashtag STEM.
yeah, yeah. And basically I feel like the idea of a professional brand kind of sucks. But we'll be using that terminology throughout this talk anyway. But the point is that like your professional brand shouldn't be any different from who you really are. Its only distinction maybe should be in how you market and promote yourself there, but your professional brand is essentially you. And because it's you, I don't know why so many people have trouble carving that out for themselves. In fact, if you actually kind of marry your authentic self, who you are with your friends, who you are with the people you're most comfortable with, who you are, once you're in your career and are already open with your coworkers and start knowing them as people and not just like stepping stones in your professional journey, you actually like do yourself like a service. If you be your actual self, whether it's presented to the people around you, potential employers, you get to position yourself for career opportunities where you're actually a great fit. You don't have to end up going to work, faking it every day. And I feel like I hear a lot of people thinking about that, right? Like your greatest fear is that you wake up every day and just have to fake it, or you wake up every day hating what you do. And if you're not authentic in your career, which is like sadly something that we're all kind of forced to go through, then you're easy to fall into that. So even as students, it's a great start for us to start thinking about our professional brand, and how our professional brand should actually be ourselves, and that we shouldn't let the common perception of what professionalism is deter us from being more genuine in all our interactions.
Okay. So first, before we tell you how to build a brand, we need to define like what is personal branding. Because honestly, it's such an abstract term. Like where even to start? So the way we see personal branding is, thank you, Alexis Calyada, for your personal branding talk. Um, it's both a combination of story and reputation. So see yourself as both the author and protagonist of your own narrative, because you're the one writing how others see this character or protagonist. So you'll be the one showing others like how you got into design, how you got into art, how you got into writing. You'll be defining how other people see you. And it's basically comprised of three parts. First, work, basically like what you do as a person. Like, do you create or do you manage people like Chia? Do you do art like me? Second, your relationships. So this isn't just like the audience you're kind of cultivating as like an influencer, but basically the people you have horizontal or equal relationships with, your colleagues, your org mates, so on and so forth. And finally, your value to others. So basically, your value, this is what makes you like unique as a person, what really brands you as someone who can't be like replaced. Why are you worth knowing to the world?
Let's talk about like why we have that selling out tagline in our talk. So I feel like selling out, I mean, basically for me, it means no longer being genuine. For students, kind of hinted at this, but there's this culture where you're in college, you're starting to meet, or maybe high school. I don't know what high school kids are doing nowadays, but you start making like your LinkedIn profile, you start going for internships or your first OJT and work immersions, and you're just like mocking the front that you have for your professional self. That's kind of selling out. If you're doing it like in a bad way, like you have this completely separate persona that you're not really proud of, I feel like that's like selling out, especially to advance like school-wise and career-wise. And also for those who are already on kind of professional platforms, are beginning to talk about like career and the value that they have in those areas. It's probably following trends and tones that aren't you. So my easiest example for this is when you kind of look at a generic LinkedIn feed, what most people are liking would have like thousands of likes, and you know that everything looks clickbaity. And you feel like you have to make that form of content, even though it's not necessarily you, in order to stand out.
So why is branding important? Like, okay, I don't need a job right naman. I'm not graduating yet. Why do I need to do this now? Okay, so here's what working on your personal branding can do for you. First, it can help create opportunities. So here's a picture of me. For it was a talk for home credit. I was invited to talk to like help represent like Developh, and I was like the only college speaker there. I was talking to students my age, and everyone else was professionals. Fake it till you make it. But yeah, if I wasn't like already set as like, oh, design leader of student org, like starting college, like talking about tech, I think I wouldn't have been able to get such an opportunity, you know.
Yeah, and when did this happen, Bianca? I'm sorry for
Um,
asking you.
Feb 2020, yeah, just before the pandemic.
Oh, yeah. And I think something important to mention about how Bianca got this speaker opportunity is that we held a big develop event
Collab.
in 2019 around August. And we invited Home Credit to be one of our keynote speakers. And Home Credit, the organizer of this event and hackathon, asked for if someone from Develop would like to speak. So we wouldn't have had this opportunity if we didn't have a sort of brand connection with them. On my end, I get to be featured in Medium articles, which is nice. Yeah.
Nice.
Um, Another reason why branding is pretty important is that, you know, if you have a way to present yourself in a way that attracts people to you, it's easier to find communities of like-minded people. And especially in the case where we ourselves are in many communities, you're never just in like one circle. There are many different social fronts and spaces that you find yourself in. Um, Career-wise, it's a really great opportunity to find people who you can learn from and who you can learn with if you have the right presence set up.
And
Another thing,
finally,
I'll talk about this in my week. Um, Another reason why branding is important is, of course, to bring jobs to you. This is kind of a reverse example because I had a job offer and I lost it due to COVID. But essentially, I try to make my Twitter somewhat about design and technology. I have a good network of people who are in tech and startups in it. And I posted about how I lost my job and here's my portfolio and resume. And it got a pretty good response. It got more retweets and likes than the jokes I made. So apparently people wanted to help me more than they wanted to laugh with me. So yeah. Uh, Another level up version of this is people seeing your work and directly reaching out to you. So after losing out on that opportunity through Twitter, I was able to connect with my current boss at my internship. That's my boss, even though his avatar is from One Piece. Yeah. Um, he basically just asked me these short questions, and I forgot to respond because I'm terrible at responding. And then he just dropped his number, and we called. And a week later, I went through the interview process and got the opportunity that I'm in now. That I'm learning a lot from. Yes, this DP is lovely.
yeah, to add on to that, that personal branding helped like Chia become top of mind for those kind of audience like startup founders, recruiters at a certain field. So and in that case, that made her top of mind for like designers like for startups in tech. Mhm. And finally, the final reason is capture value. It shows like why are you worth following as a creator, as an influencer. Um, so to define value further, there's this concept called 1,000 true fans from Kevin Kelly. So basically, a true fan is someone who will buy anything that you reproduce. So even if we're not all content creators like him, I think it's still a valuable concept that we can make use of because we can define bias like not just like providing money, but also like giving connections or like sharing our work. That's already value that is provided for us. So it's like a cycle. You give and then you give back. And but the thing is, in order to like get these true fans, the ones that will keep giving and giving to you, you must have a direct relationship with them. You can't just like hire like someone like, oh, talk to them for me. It doesn't work that way. You know, like as again, as the author of your story, you really have to be the one in charge of crafting it. Because if you craft your story enough, people will come to you specifically for that talent or skill that you have.
Yeah, so 1,000 true fans is a pretty common concept in content creation, as Alexa shared in chat. And although not all of us are necessarily content creators, you can also think of it as having um, a good amount of community members and fans who really vouch for you. 1,000 is also not just like a hard number that you need to reach for in order to really capture an audience. It's just used to show that you don't need a million people around you. You really just need a small group of people who know that you generate some form of value and that you're dependable for this reason.
So
Yeah.
why do I need to right now? Yeah, Chia, tell us why.
Okay, I will tell you why, Bianca. So why is it
Okay.
important to start branding now? For some context, I like entering the professional world of branding is commonly seen as like starting your LinkedIn, right? Because that's like the professional network. This is a screenshot I dug through where it was my first mention of LinkedIn ever on Messenger. And I think it was the end of my junior year. Um, and Paul Hughes is my friend from high school. And we literally were like each other's first connections or something. And I just started it because I had an internship, but I wanted to try to share more opportunities, and also because I wanted to talk a bit more about Developh's work and find people who could help us in the area, and also just meet more students outside my high school. Um, Basically, the way I started was just send connection requests to all my teachers who all had like less than 50 connections or something. So I could get like that initial credential of having a number attached to my name and very empty profile that consists of like one internship and my side hustle. And the common mistake that like anyone has in any rule is starting late. Right? The thing about brands is that they're built over prolonged periods of time. And something that I really want to tell people is that to start building your professional brand, you don't need to wait until you're searching for a job. You don't need to wait until you're in that year of your course where you're like moved to have OJT or something. You don't need to wait until you're about to be a fresh graduate, and I feel like that even is too late already. And you don't need to even have a resume worthy activity necessarily. I don't even know what resume worthy it's something means. As long as you have yourself and your school or whatever you're doing right now on, that's a great start. And you should really start building your profile, especially if you ever anticipate needing it in the future. Why not start now? And something that's important is like there's literally no downside. You get an upper edge to your career. And as students, I feel like a lot of people kind of underestimate the value that they already have, right? You see a lot of these content creators in your circles who attend so much events, have years of industry and experience, like Alexis Collado, already sharing what they're doing and are like producing podcasts and graphics and like resources for people to digest. But then your own individual experiences, your learnings from school, the people around you, the things you read, or the passions you indulge in are so new to everyone around you. It's why these things are so worth sharing to the friends we have, right? They're also worth sharing to the people around you. And you can never really anticipate what value you have until you kind of start actually sharing things that you invest in. And yeah, pro tip to start, um, try to reflect on yourself. What do you want? We'll be talking about this a lot. Start If you start early, you get to start building more relationships. You get to start building new people. Start building relationships with new people, and you have the chance to immerse yourself in new communities and learn more, even though they may not necessarily be in the niche that you want. The fact that you have that breadth of knowledge and community when you're starting out with your professional presence is really going to help you.
Okay, so now that we know what a brand is, let's talk about how to make it in the first place. Now let's break that brand down into a series of questions. When you break out your brand, you have to think about who you are as a person, like what do you do and what really motivates you. And it's not just about you, it's also about the other people, like who are you doing this for and who else is doing this like same thing as you do. What is your competition and how do you do it differently from them? So basically in three parts, that's who you are as a person. Second, what you want to accomplish. And finally, third, who your target audience is. So again, that's your identity, who you are as a person. And then that's your like actions or what your output, what you want to accomplish. And who you serve finally, who your target audience is. So answering those questions will help you come up with unique value proposition. So this is basically your personal brand summarized in one statement. This is the niche you create for yourself. Let's see an example of a unique value proposition. I'm passionate about empowering people through design. I'm a freshman at Ateneo studying ID with experience in various orgs and student council. Wow, so unique. Wow, tells me a lot, really. Because
Yeah. And this isn't necessarily bad. I think it's just the point of showing this is that this can be applicable to a lot of students. And I hope no one feels targeted by this. Yeah,
sorry.
I guess like the things that I would like be first to point out is that every designer is passionate about empowering people. That's literally in your job title. You're an advocate for users. Um, the experience that's cited in this statement is about being in various orgs and in student council, which is not necessarily distinctive.
You're
It
ready.
doesn't set you apart very well. And when we see statements like this, I think a good thing that to know is that, just because this initial presentation is generic doesn't mean that the person doesn't have any value. I would just really press on someone to kind of investigate their experiences, especially in depth. Um, and it's easy to fall into the trap of like explaining and describing your experiences like an objective in a resume when there's so much more depth to everything that you do. And in finding your niche and your unique value proposition, it's a great practice to really just ask why and what are the experiences that have made you sum up into this. So in this case, maybe the person in their work as a designer and a leader in orgs or in their council in high school, they didn't make, maybe they didn't just make pub mats as a designer that they presented online, but then maybe they also kind of influenced the way that their organization did HR and recruitment, and as a result had better retention rates and engagement rates of their members, and maybe they were able to even scale the organization because of the processes that they did, and maybe through these processes, it came in the form of artifacts like printing trackers and sheets, and hosting kind of engagement events through like drawing, through the arts to connect people. And in doing that, we can kind of come up with a better statement. After investigating why this person has, after investigating these person skills, we can maybe make a new statement that's, I think, a lot better. I empower small orgs to impact larger by designing systems that better have busy people than me. So there's a bit of there's some stretches here, like busy people. The experience goes to students, but then maybe the statement could be shared with organizations, like companies or startups that you're applying for, and it gives you a lot more specific context and like what your area of expertise is, and you can even kind of think about this better and further as you also explore what you want. So we'll be talking about that more. And again,
So
these are just like the three parts of building your brand. So aside from the who you are, what you do questions, we can kind of section it off into these three, figuring out who you are as a person, what you want to accomplish, and who your target audience is.
to add on to that last like generic statement, the reason why it kind of is it as a bad example, it's because it sets up the person for failure already. So even if they're a talented designer or active in orgs, it already makes them compete with like thousands of others in the saturated field of like Atenean students who are org active. Like there are so many applicants like that. I bet like recruiters are tired of it. And because yeah, even being talented at your craft or like being intelligent isn't good enough because it's a numbers game. There's always gonna be someone better than you. So instead of like tiring yourself out trying to keep competing with people, it's better to like find that niche where you'll be the top 1%.
Yeah, definitely.
So instead of doing the tiring thing and trying to be the best at one specific thing, a better way is this thing called a talent stack by the cartoonist Scott Adams, which is becoming very good at the top 25% of two or more things. Basically combining all your strengths to make one big super strength. So how do I figure this out? What to think about is as a learning student, what's easier? Do I have like any hobbies I can combine with my craft that can make me like stand out from the rest of the other students? And
Right?
to
Like when you
add,
think about this, Like the top 1% at a specific thing is probably the Olympians, people who are already like NBA players, the grandmasters of chess. And it's very hard to be known for that, unless you are one and you're in this call. But it's a lot easier to be in the top 25% of a specific skill set. And as a student, you're really positioned to be well, to kind of learn a lot and do better at a different breadth of disciplines just because of the nature of your education system, right? You're thrusted into so many different subjects and disciplines. And you also have the flexibility of like not really knowing what you want yet. And you can use that to your advantage, right? You can have a diverse skill set. You don't have to be an expert in anything because as a student and a young person, you're not really expected to be. And the way you can make yourself known is by focusing in on that goal of being the top 25% at two or more things.
Mm-hmm. So this is an example of Scott Adams' like unique talent. That as a cartoonist, he wasn't the best drawer or the best writer, but when you combine both, that makes you in the top 25%. And he was funny pa, so that's great. And there was an addition to this by these people. Basically, you learn how to sell and you learn how to build. So those skills or talents in your stack can be divided into two sections. First, your cornerstone. So this is your foundation. Like, what are you good at? Are you good at designing? Are you good at drawing? Are you good at writing? And you parang enhance these through commercialization. So these are what really make your talents into this bread, the coin that you need. So that's like, I'm a really hardworking person, or I know how to market myself, or I know how to manage a store, pack orders to really get that money. So to see this as an example, yeah, this is the talent stack of Scott Adams that I was talking about. So like I said, cartoonist, not the best drawer, not the best writer, but when he combined both, he already became the top of his game, diba? And he was funny too. And being talented isn't enough to like make it a sustainable job. So how he really succeeded as a cartoonist, he had business skills already, like marketing himself. And he also had this work ethic. So, because cartooning is really tiring, it's like almost the same thing, but he was willing to keep committing to it and do it. And he was finally okay with taking risks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like creatives are really good at kind of thinking about their talent stack, right? Because you inherently know that as an artist, it's very hard to be a top 1% artist, if that even exists right now. So it's all about building your niche and kind of spreading yourself out into like a specific art community or fandom that you want to create a following in or be known within. Because in general, like drawing is not a standalone skill. And I feel for the technologists here, it's easy for designers and like engineers to fall into that trap of thinking that you need to be like a top engineer, or that skill alone will suffice. Um, so it's nice to take inspiration from creatives in this sense who also have to learn how to commercialize their work because it's not a standalone thing. And there's so many ways to do that. Yeah.
Aside from talent, another important part of your identity is values. So these aren't just what you believe in. According to one of my favorite authors, Ariane Seraphico, she talks about like goal setting and purpose. Values are actually parang guiding principles or standards of your behavior. They show you like really what's important in your life, combined with your passions and your experiences. Because a value as something you believe in, that's kind of parang walang commitment yon. But when it's used as like a rule, um, as something like to really follow in making life choices, that's what's gonna help you set apart. So example of this, I followed Ariane Seraphico's framework in making like my core three values and stuff. This is parang a guide I put like near my bed, my work desk every day. So as you can see, my core three values are empathy, grit, empowerment. And they guide like not just like my career choices, like I was hesitant na, oh, do I want to like intern while in school, or do I want to like balance like multiple orgs, but also like the content like I was making. When I realized now, oh, I really have to start showing up as a creative, because you're as good as you present yourself, and you if you barely put out content, then are you really a creative? So yeah, if you follow my like art IG, I've been posting some like really deep stuff recently, and my values have been a big part of writing that content. Like I always think, oh, does this emphasizes like my audience? This is like help empower them. Yeah, as you can see in the paper below, these values like help me like find my purpose in life. Like as you can see here, I want to become the kind of creative who empowers others by resonating with them. So yeah, when I was asking others, oh, what did you think of it? And they said, oh, it's empowering. Like it's good to feel that, oh, their feedback reflects like those values I've set for myself in life. Yeah. And next, once you have that identity packed down, the next is thinking about what to accomplish, not just like professionally in your career, but personally. So, what do you want to be known for? Like, you want to be known as like not just a great designer, but an ethical designer. What's your key message people should take away from you? And if you could choose one topic to be like the number one expert in the world in, what would it be? You know, and once you've come up with those, what you want to accomplish, you have to figure out your target audience and who you want to serve. So who will benefit most from my content? Who will I like help change their life? And who am I most passionate about serving? Like I'll never get tired of like serving these people. So to borrow from UX, um, have a persona in mind. So basically, a persona is a representation of a user that you speak to. By visualizing this persona, you get to understand what they need, how they feel, and you compare your personal brand against them to see if you're really serving that persona. So how do I start building a persona? Well, pick someone from your demographic. Like you know yourself best, so it's most likely that you'll best help someone who's just like you. So for instance, me and Chia were both startup enthusiasts from Metro Manila, and for the artists there, you can serve like young fans of any like multi fandom ship you're into who like comics. So there's already that unique positioning of that fandom, and then the format you have, which is comics. So much effort, respect. So example of a unique value proposition. So from my personal website, I define myself as a visual designer and artist passionate about technology and humanity. Still in progress, but here you can already see like my talent of design and art and the specialization path. Like I'm really focused on the visual side of things in comparison to Chia, who's more about strategy and management. And you can see like what I really want to design about. I design like not just for like tech, like startups and stuff, but also for people. Like I if you like go through my art IG, I talk about how tech like really affects people and their minds, and I just want people to like be more aware of that. So that hopefully sets me from every designer who's like, I am passionate about human-centered experiences. There's so much, there's better ways to like make yourself stand out as a designer and creative in general.
Yeah, and for the kind of personal messaging that I have and have thought of, I describe myself as someone who creates like radical experiences for creators and communities. So creators in the sense that my dream space is to work on products or experiences or platforms that like serve creators and help people make things in communities, which aligns with the work I do with Developh, right? Our entire mission is about kind of building student founders in Southeast Asia and giving them resources they need to create. So I have this messaging interspersed throughout my website and even my resume. And I really just want to emphasize on those targets, mostly because it kind of sells that I'm down to be an engineer, a designer, or work on a product. Just why I don't really specify something about creation. And I'm someone who's very big on experiences outside traditional like work or internship. So I have a lot of side projects. So obviously that's like stretching, and it's just something I want people to be able to guess from this statement, but it's something I expound on in whatever place the statement is in. Um, and also the reason why I have this value prop is like it's not only something like what I'm strong in, but then I've been using it to signal the types of companies I want to work in. So I specifically want to work in a company that has like a strong community culture around their product or whatever service they're working on. And I want to work somewhere that is empowering creators in a tangible way.
A great analogy for building your personal brand. It's like building a product. So see your skills or your experiences as like the features of this product. Then relate those product features into user benefits. How will your skills or what you can offer to the table like help the users of this product or AKA your brand? So some tips for building a personal brand. Survey everyone around you. Because again, as humans, we're very biased. The way we see ourselves can actually be the weakest. So ask not just your friends, but also family or even those who don't know you that well. That way you can really get a comprehensive view of yourself as your personal brand. And you can see how it's aligned with that ideal brand of yours. Mm-hmm. And next, manifest and visualize your best self. So yeah, the clearer your ideal personal brand is to you, it's easier to work towards it. So for me as a visual creative, when I was working on this like the start of the year, I would like create mood boards. I would like collate like other creatives or designers now I really wanted to be like, who were like putting out content. And once I've collected all the content together, I'd say, oh, they have this in common. Maybe this can apply to me as well. So yeah, inspiration.
Yeah, there's kind of a duality between these two tips, right? Like our self-perception is probably the most warped and negative one there is. Um, so the least we can do is just think about the best self that we want to be and try to strive towards that. Another tip is that you really are your own marketing team. You're in charge of telling your story, which is why I'm so keen on telling people to just start building their brand now because no one else will do it for you. You really have to do the hard work of reaching out to people, um, creating content, showing that you're someone worth listening to, because no one else will do it for you unless you go viral accidentally, but that was probably not most of us. So while
So
thinking about this, like how can we be intentional about telling our story?
yes, thank you, Alexis Calyada. First, contribute to your community because it's not all about you. Volunteer in relevant orgs, collect resources for other people, have reflections on events you went to, create articles. Next, document your journey. Because again, you have so much to offer to the table. Like what you went through can help other people as well, your tribe. So talk about like your failures, like how did you fail at meeting this board activity? How did you fail at this design challenge? And this also shows that you're human. So this helps like create more trust in you for your audience. And finally, the most important, I guess we'll go further in depth into this, is creating content. This is really what helps you be a top of mind. Um, Make these digestible and accessible to both people who are close to you and people who are not. Mm-hmm. So in the end, whether you're contributing to community or creating your own content, what should really guide you is creating value for people. Because once you give value to people, they'll become your fans and they'll be the ones to organically market for you. Because yeah, even though you're your own marketing team, it's kind of unsustainable to do it all by yourself. So having these fans, they'll like do all the work for you. Mm-hmm. They're both your cheerleaders and friends.
Yeah, right. And the way we kind of phrase this is like you kind of also have like even in your current friend circle, it's not just about like being able to market to strangers, but I'm sure there are so many things that you do like work-wise that not everyone in your life necessarily knows about. And the easiest way to get started on this is to make that super clear. Like, I'm pretty sure my parents have no idea what I'm doing most of the time, yet my mom will probably share this Facebook Live. And my goal is to make it clear, make clear to her and to the people around me, what I'm passionate about, because you already have people who are supportive of you. If you don't feel like you do, Developh is supportive of you, and we're happy to share anything you're working on. So your goal is really to just like you already have people who you add value to by being your human self. So the next step here is to be able to create content or to be able to create some form of messaging that helps people spread that out. So something Gwen said in chat, um, is something that John Maxwell said, along the lines of the best way to make yourself irreplaceable is to make yourself replaceable. Sharing your knowledge included. I have to think about that for a moment to comprehend. I'm sure that's deep. But yeah, let's talk about these channels and content. Like, how do you actually get into content creation? How do you actually show yourself on these intimidating platforms?
So there's this strategy by Gary Vee known as the pillar method that really will help you out as a creative. So this starts with like creating pillar content that helps reinforce your personal brand. So examples, that can be an article of a conference you attended, or something you learned at school and work, or like parang an art of how you've grown as an artist for the last 6 months. So once you have that big piece of content, you then break it down into smaller shareable pieces. And then you share it across different channels because it's time to create content all the time. So doing this will make life easier for you.
Yeah, and this can take in the form of if you have a vlog, something there. I'm so happy I didn't say vlog. I usually say vlog. You can cut it down into 3-second clips that you share in your IG stories, on Twitter. If you have a 1,000 word blog post, honestly, just milk it. Keep sharing snippets and quotes from it. Share it out in tweets or in Facebook posts. Really just revive this content.
Yeah. And another strategy, I believe, to avoid selling out and to help organically market you better is make sure your content resonates. This is from another favorite author of mine, Alex Wolf. Yes. So basically, resonance is that feeling that compels you to share something. Because we're so used to scrolling our feeds, but that feeling that makes you stop and share a post, that is resonance. It's involuntary, really. And this can be divided into 4 elements. So here are some elements to think of like before publishing your work out into the world. Honesty, vulnerability, accuracy, and passion. So for honesty, does this talk about the big elephant in the room? Does this talk about what people are scared of, but they don't want to address? That's what you can do. That's an opportunity for you as a creator. Next, vulnerability. Does this show you like really pathetically, like it makes you open to critique? And third, accuracy. Can people emphasize with it? And this can be shown in comments like, you said like what I was thinking, I couldn't have said it better. And finally, passion. Yeah, is this when you create your content and people see it, do they feel like, oh, this is something Bianca would like keep doing until she dies? Because that really is what makes you like unique as a creator, I believe. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when you think about this concept of resonance, honestly, just like think about the content creators that you really admire right now. Think about how passionate they usually are about their work, or how your favorite YouTubers are usually people who sit down and talk about topics that people are afraid to. People who go out and do stupid things, like even if the whole world was watching, or some of like some of our favorite videos that we replay over and over. And of course, anything that we identify with is like accurate. Like accuracy is just another term for relatable, right? Um, if you frame that in, if you kind of frame these four elements and by thinking about like the creators you love, it's a lot easier to kind of digest the concept. Yeah, for content creation in general, some general tips are when thinking about platforms, like honestly, just start with a platform you're most comfortable with. Again, it's not just LinkedIn. If you're already someone who's big on tweeting, or if you're like every person in the Philippines and you're on Facebook a lot, start sharing some work-related things. Start doing a few flexes here and there, and that is already kind of building your professional brand. And think about just creating contextually too. The reason why we're going to kind of break down things into different platforms is that like what works on TikTok is very different from what works on Instagram. And if you're starting to build an audience that it consists of people who are strangers or people who aren't necessarily familiar with you in the personal sense, this gets more and more relevant. And something really important is that consistency is key. I think a lot of us feel like we're failures just because we don't have a post that gets like viral or a lot of responses or engagement immediately. But then it's like I can remember viral pieces of content, sure, but then I don't necessarily remember the creator of it. It just kind of gets lost and becomes a standalone thing. But for all the creators I remember, I know them because I know that they are creating repeatable things that I want to consume. I know that they're always going to be having something more in store for me. Which is why like streamers have schedules. That's why YouTube people have posting dates. Um, it's that consistency that really makes people go back to you. And if there's anything that you do, it's mostly to just continue doing something um, until it starts resonating with more people and just experimenting with it. Another tip is to be loud about celebrating and sharing what the people in your network and circles are creating. Um, if you invested in the growth of others, they'll invest in your growth too. So if someone is sharing something that they made on their Instagram story, sure, many of you already do this, but react to them, send them a message, let them know that something is amazing, even for a child. Like that, this sense of affirmation, things that we make and share, can brighten up our day. And you should think about doing that too for people around you. And I think students especially need to be a lot more loud and embarrassing even about hyping up people, even if we don't really know them. Like appreciate what people are doing, especially amidst the entire world. Another idea that might help is like start generating content with your friends. So at least if you do something cringe, you do it together. Like I shared with my LinkedIn screenshot, I started like my LinkedIn profile and then just requesting everyone with my friends. So I knew that I wasn't like this weird student in the 11th grade who was suddenly bothering like every teacher, um, giving them a notice from a LinkedIn account they haven't checked in years. Um, so get a friend, even if it's someone you don't know well, there's so many like student networking platforms and honestly just start trying to create things with them, share each other's work, like hype each other up. So in thinking about like the content creation and brand building, I think something easy to start with is like your bio, which is like the first thing a lot of people see in the context of like they see something you post maybe shared by someone else, or it just like happens to pop on their feed. And your first goal is to sell yourself well and make sure that in your bio you share the type of content that they can expect from you repeatedly and help you go back to and help them like get back to you over and over. Okay, so an easy way to start this is just like doing a long form version of it. So this is my LinkedIn about. I'm not gonna read it out loud, but breakdown is start with a short. Like it's still super long, and my me is like one sentence, and it's that long. That's pretty bad. I love run-on sentences apparently, but yeah. To start out with just like a paragraph about me, um, my value prop, like a short statement about what I do. So I have the thing about creating radical things and daring things that empower creators. I have a summary of my work experiences, so there's actually quite a bunch of them bunched up together. And I also share some other cool stuff that are more on side projects I do. So about my writing and newsletter, the Yale Women's Center I work at, and how I make indie games in my free time. And at the end, I just end it with like a how to reach me. If I was in job search mode, which I should be now, I would add maybe a plug about what I'm looking for at the moment. So I'm looking for internships or something like that. Um, and an easy way to look at short form is like the LinkedIn headline. So this is basically the summary of why people should click into you. So I divide it with an interpunct, and I just learned what an interpunct is recently. I'm so proud. I just have a summary of what I do at Develop, where I go to information Southeast Asia. So I share the location, what I do with the organization, and the organization name so people remember it. I share 2 credentials so people think I'm like a legit person. And obviously I'm like kind of try-harding in my photos too with that. I share like the award I have with a known organization and my education in school. And then in another platform where it's a bit less professional, here's my Twitter, the current one I have. Um, my ad is terrible. I'm not gonna read it out also. I start with the word emo because I don't only tweet about tech, and more frequently it is about music and culture. I then plug credentials because honestly, you need to put in credentials for people to find you interesting and trustworthy. So I tell my school, which is an easy thing to add to your bio. I have a plug for my blog because I just want more people to click on it and read whatever I say things I'm writing. And then I plug in the other activities I'm mainly working on. And better version of my bio that I probably should switch back to is like, it has a bit of a longer cell where we talk again about what I do at Develop, and a Philippine flag because Filipinos just follow each other, especially if you're like not in the Philippines. So I'm used to that. I then plug like important activities, credential. Yeah, this is literally copy pasting Alexis and how he does it because we love Alexis Collado, who is a great designer of ours. So in Alexis LinkedIn, sorry. So like Alexis LinkedIn, he has like bullet point emojis of what he does, the links to them. And you can see that the same formula is kind of repeated in what he does, right? In your Twitter bio, just like, tell people what you do, flex that you're now a senior product designer, plug in something new that you're creating, like Alexis YouTube, which you should follow. Yeah, the same formula is also followed by his LinkedIn headline. He is also doing the Filipino flag tactic, like me, very cool. And something to note is that it's like you do work at an organization or like a project that isn't like immediately known to people, you can describe like what it does. So instead of like plugging in like the name of Alexis like coaching business directly, he'll say that he's a coach for early stage designers. So similar to what I did where I explain what Develop does before like linking to it. Yeah, so let's talk a bit about like the different platforms where you can generate content. So this is such like a rushed like explanation of different platforms and what you can possibly do. But for Facebook, what I would do is I'm not super professional as in I don't like generate content there in videos, but I to remind people about the work I'm doing with like the political news and memes of music that I share. It's that whenever I share things about my organization, opportunities I'm at, and I share them frequently too, not be afraid to mess with my feed, is that I'll add some context about it. And context doesn't have to be like a long winding story about your design journey or something like that. It can just be like literally just like add a caption so it shows up more on people's feed. That helps. Um, this is a screenshot from Gwen, who plugged her participation in our community panel for tomorrow. So yeah, like just talk about your feelings at an event, get people engaged and excited about what you're participating in. And yeah, like I share these professional examples, but then every person's Facebook feed is also consists of like a specific curation of the things they're interested in. You're just begging for people to talk to you about whatever you share. So being a bit unafraid to add more context to things and um, adding like these career hints and adding some context about the orgs you're in and the activities they have will help you kind of set yourself apart. Then Twitter is very confusing at first, and I'm sure people have very different uses for it. There are people who tweet about their life and everything that's happening. Me, I just try to tweet if I have something funny in mind. Sometimes I'll have like a lot of funny tweets for a week and then I'll die. Um, or yeah, I'll just complain about things and stop tweeting my entire high school and get them pissed at me. So I'll also do that. Um,
Branding.
but yeah. Um, so things that are good to do on Twitter. Honestly, hot takes are good. As long as you're ready to talk about them more. Um, be contrarian if you want. In like the proper sense. Share learnings and insights that you have. People probably share the same insights as you and are just afraid to point it out, or maybe you articulate it better, or in a unique way. Um, share your wins. I shared a scholarship I got, and I got a lot of engagement and comments, and I was very happy. And I pin it just so people know that I also have another credential. Um, and in this win, I detail a bit about the journey that I went through. So I talk about how I had no portfolio, and then I got like a design scholarship from Adobe or something, from Adobe. And I shared the news, and then that's just a good way to share content on Twitter, right? Because we want to see people having good things happen in their life. Think about sharing content that other people will find interesting. So yeah, hot takes, or like even minute or mundane things that you find funny or cool. Like I just shared a random project management tool that I found in the HIO racial justice bundle, and people found it as an interesting share. And the developer even found it like very kind that I shared it with an explanation, and we talked about their product. Um, and I'm in the Discord and are giving them like design suggestions, which is interesting. And something about Twitter is that don't just like retweet or like things. Original content is key. Even if you don't post a lot, if you maintain a feed where you have an easily distinguishable voice amidst everything, that's going to be great. Just like be relatable and authentic and think about those elements of resonance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a presence on Instagram, so maybe Bianca, she's Diane.
Okay.
Sorry, I was on Discord so much today. Bianca,
As
you
a
can talk about
creative, compared to like Chia who blogs and tweets and everything, I'm still not confident with my writing. I really prefer to like talk through like my work. So yeah, what I do in my art IG, I had this like really eye-catching like visual to like make people like stop scrolling, and then there's like this really deep caption under. Like for instance, the one with the laser is talking about attention, the attention economy, like how corporations like um FB or like anything else are like doing all these like dark tricks just to like get our most precious resource. So yeah, and also as you can see here in the bio, it already says a lot about me as a person. I do a lot. So please add as much as you can. So yeah, it helps like link to other communities you're part of, other projects. Help people find value in you.
So let's talk about LinkedIn and how it's a pretty big like. There's a lot to talk about there. So, um, maybe it's better if I just like literally pull up my LinkedIn and go part by part. But yeah, I'll have it in this tab. Can you see the LinkedIn thing?
Yes.
Yeah. So on your LinkedIn, you have the about right, and we talked about that a bit, and the headline. You have this featured section, so use it to pin any articles you wrote, your website, anything you're featured in. I would also add my resume here if I'm looking for a job. at the moment. So that's something you can do. Then for your work experience, you can literally just copy paste what you have in your resume, or you can do a short summary of your work. Um, for my work experiences where I don't do a lot yet, I'll just like summarize what I do and then link to it. And then I'll also use the pin feature on LinkedIn. So literally, if you just like open your experience, there's a media section. So I would upload or link like photos just to give context. Education is a very important section, especially on LinkedIn, because like an easy way to connect with people, say, oh, I also went through the same school as you. Or yeah, like the alumni network is very strong, and that's why they say that's important. Basically, the way you use it is like mention that you're from the same school, so you have a common link with someone. So you like add your school, and then like maybe make a summary of the orgs you're in and your activities, and then any scholarships or distinctions that you received. And then again, LinkedIn is really your chance to flex, especially like you can't really do that in other platforms so outwardly as in LinkedIn. So add any relevant awards, build credentials, ask your friends to endorse you. Like, I don't know if this section is really that important, then looks cool if it is. If you've worked with someone, it's nice to ask them for recommendations. I only have one recommendation. It's for my first internship at education.ph. And so leave it up there. My internship manager, my internship coworker back then is now working at Canva Philippines, and we're still connected and we still talk. So it's really nice that we have this relationship showcase. You can share your organizations and other publications. But yeah, that's how I would do my LinkedIn profile. If you have a resume already, you can already build it out. And if you don't have a resume, LinkedIn can be your stand-in resume for now. Literally just add you don't even need an experience section. When I started out, I had one internship and I just like put in my school and I connected with everyone from my school, who were like teachers and also people who were like recent graduates that I kind of knew. Then just like tell people a bit about yourself, then add your photo and connect with your friends, connect with your org mates. Then you have a profile already. It's easy. Yeah, my interest is Roblox. Then again, like pro tip on LinkedIn, literally send connection requests. Start out with your alumni network if you don't have a lot of people yet. Like as you attend more events and meet more people, of course, you like kind of end up finding each other there. But then if you're not at that stage, what I would do is to find people you even acquainted with, or people that you've had like some form of interaction with, and then I would send a connection request. And like LinkedIn, there's an option to personalize the invite. So I would start off with like introducing the connection you have with the person. So like, hey, I'm Chia. I went to Developh Assembly too. Then talk a bit about what you're doing now. So you're a student who's aspiring to do something. Give a hint at what you want. So what you want at this stage should be to like learn from them or to follow their career developments or to talk to them about something you posted. It should not be like what you want is like a referral or what you want is like something big from them. If you send an invite, you should absolutely like offer everything you can to someone. And also it's nice to give them a compliment and praise them. So don't just like send connection requests like don't just send them for no reason. Actually connect with people you are interested in, and that you want to know more about.
Yeah. So other platforms, don't feel limited to what we just suggested. So for social media, if you're better at like talking to the camera or writing articles, you can make a Medium, YouTube, or even make your own podcast. And also, we recommend in like non-social media because the thing is with social media platforms like FB and Insta, they're they can be easily changed by the people like developing them. But at least if you have like your own blog or your own like newsletter, you have like complete control of the platform. Like you don't have to like fight with the algorithm to like get the attention of your followers. So yeah.
Yeah. Something cute that I've been seeing a lot of people doing is like there's a joke, right, that everyone now wants to start a podcast or everyone wants to start like a newsletter. Um, Honestly, why not? Like go for it. Like start creating content and sharing it with people, even if it's just your friends, so it becomes easier to share it with larger audiences. Um, for newsletters, like a cute small newsletter space is like 10 letter. So there's that. There's also MailChimp, which is more like for businesses, but it's also pretty good. Substack is a new popular platform that's literally just like a newsletter digest. Why don't I open it? Like,
That's like so
so
good.
super recommend Substack. It's literally like just a place where you can
It
find
helps me.
everyone's newsletters, then start your own newsletter. You can even like opt to create a paid newsletter. And you'll get money from sharing content, which is pretty cool. Non-social media, something that I didn't write here, was also like, yeah, blogging is a great thing to do. I have a blog that has been up since 2016, but I have like blog posts that I collated since I was like 11 on the internet on there. And I don't talk like necessarily about like work or like insights. Um, I'll just talk about things I'm building, my processes. I'll have like complaints about life here. And then something that I try to do is like be super
Okay.
consistent about it. And then I will literally just like dump words here. And you can see that it's been up since 2016. I'll talk about school projects that I found really interesting, and I'll link to my process and like give some rationale about behind that. So that's nice. Um, Another place for blogs is Medium. So this is Developh's Medium, which is like Medium is essentially the modern like social media for blogs. Um, you can start publications here, and then you can also just make personal posts. I see a lot of designers who will share case studies and processes about their work, but then I'll also share like personal blog posts and stuff, or like releases about work I'm doing. So there's so many other platforms that you can experiment with. Yeah, maybe you can even stream or something. So I'll talk a bit about like networking. So they say like brand building is really just about like, I mean, it's essentially about like captivating people enough to trust you and want things from you and know that you can give them something, right? And something that you can't really do without is like doing the organic part of meeting people and nurturing yourself. And for networking, something I just want to emphasize is like there's no one formula. Um, we can share a bit about the way we approach it, but then like if you look at networking guide, the reason why a lot of them are all like the same generic things about like attend events, talk to your professors, is that like how do you even explain how network? It's just like the friends you make, many of them by coincidence. So again, like networking is essentially relationship building. So networking is not just knowing people for career reasons. It's about actually knowing people and investing in their growth. It's why I'm still connected to someone who I interned for 3 years ago. It's why many of your coworkers in any setting will eventually turn into your friends, hopefully. So that's really important. And to give some context too, like Bianca and I are both like introverts. So even if we're talking about brand building and even if we're talking about how we network, um, you can still do that even if you're shy as a person and even if you don't necessarily know people. So, so like a good way to think about it is to really just like examine yourself, right? Like how do you form relationships with your friends? How do you form relationships with people? And you can definitely apply that to the way you form relationships in your professional life. Like, there's no rules against it. And if the way you form relationships, like in your personal life, might seem iffy, that's also okay. It's something that is a constant work in progress, and it's something that we're all going to continue learning from. So I guess my biggest tip in terms of networking is that in many professional contexts, the biggest thing that you have to do is um, kind of craft like a pitch for your value proposition. So when I recommended personalizing your invite on LinkedIn by introducing yourself, complimenting someone, that's like an example of showing the value prop that we talked about, right? You share a bit about yourself. And in thinking about your pitch, this is like the 1 minute elevator pitch that you have, where you explain yourself, a bit of your journey of what you want. So what I would do is like write down everything you know about your brand, like you're in school for this, these are your experiences. How does this align with like your core advocacy or the core thing that you want to do in life? Who do you want to serve? What are you seeking? And like condense it into a minute or less. So if there's one thing that might seem performative about this entire process, it would be having to memorize like this pitch, because you need to use it to start these relationships that you have with people. So for example, if you have a career fair coming up, or if you have a call with someone um, who you're talking to in a career context, have a way to answer like, tell me about yourself, or can you introduce like, yeah, like who are you, right? Um, and knowing how you answer the tell me about yourself question, and knowing how to do it shortly, and then from then being able to kind of gauge what people are more interested about in the parts of your pitch is going to be important. Um, and once you've condensed your value prop into less than a minute, um, do your best to practice it over and over. And if you do, like literally just like recite it, remind yourself, or like voice memo it, you'll be able to be better at this like organically, like not only knowing this 1 minute repetitive thing, but also how you branch off and share your story into like more organic manners. Like someone might be interested in your experience at a startup, someone might be interested in how you found your major in your school. Um, and the better you will be able to also know yourself. And like literally just like my last tip for networking is that you have to be really good at listening and learning. So the easiest way that you can network as a student is honestly just find people that you want to learn from. And I'm sure that you have so many people you want to talk with and chat with. And if you ask for time from them, especially if you tell them, like literally just tell them that you're a student, you're interested in them, and that you want to know more, there's a very good chance that people will give you the time to speak with them. It might just be a short amount of time, like 15 minutes to chat, but then that means everything. And you never know what relationships can be spun from them and what value you might actually be able to add from each other. So what I would do here is like, literally, if there's someone that's cool, I would like send them a cold message, tell them how much I love their work, and then ask them, adjusting to them, if I can talk with them and have some time with them. So ways to reach out to people, cold email if you have like, if you found their email somewhere, if you think they're active on LinkedIn, and you can and are receptive to connection requests, you can guess by like the number. If they have like 300 and they're like a big person, then probably better to find an email. Do that. It's better if you know someone who can introduce you to them. So cold email is like if you're reaching out with having never talked before, but you can have a warm introduction where it's basically someone who they know already, like adding you into a email thread with them, and then you just continue off the thread. So a warm introduction is even better. Important thing to do. Talk to speakers that go to your school. Like literally, if there's someone in your high school or college who gives a talk, um, even if you slept through it, at the end of the talk, you need to go up with them, tell them that talk was amazing because it's very likely that no one else will think to do that. Like they're literally just going off to do the next thing. And ask for their contact details. Like ask if you can connect with them, if you can talk to them more. Tell them what your favorite insight is and what you're interested, what you're most interested in. And it also goes to the point, right, of like being loud about like being thankful for people and celebrating what people give you. And whenever you meet someone, make sure to follow up on those relationships. Like don't just like message like a bump or literally or a literal follow up, but rather if there's anything that you encounter that makes you think of the person, that makes you think of the interaction, or if there's something or something in your conversation like spurred an event or a success, literally share it with them and you'll continue the conversation from that initial like learning or from that initial encounter, and showing people that you think about them and give them like attention beyond like your own needs is the best way to start forming networks. So yeah, what is next from this long talk?
Ooh,
Um,
okay.
biggest pieces of advice are these.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Reflect.
okay.
I'm
Look at
sorry.
Iris just nodding at each
Reflect
other,
on
not
your
knowing who was gonna
on
talk.
sorry. Reflect on like what your intentions are and make sure it aligns with how you present yourself to others because nothing sucks more than like selling out, aka when your professional personal selves are misaligned. And two, start generating content because that's really what's going to put you out there and make you top of mind. That 1% for others. And finally, yes, bring value. Again, like personal brand, despite the name, it's not just about yourself, it's really about other people. Yay.
Yeah, our challenge for you guys is to in this like chat plug where we can follow what you do. And if you want, you can also share it. Or we encourage you to share it on the Facebook group we have, and also in the Discord and in any community channel. And what we want to start doing for the rest of Assembly Week is literally just like sharing your guys' platforms and work to the rest of the audience, so we can have it be known to beyond the community. So what are you making? What are you doing? What art are you creating? What are you writing about? I would love to see it in the chat. So please do share. Um, and on the content creation side, try to share insights and takeaways from this talk or past ones from the assembly, like even a tweet or an Instagram story with a highlight of something you learned that is an insight. Like it can just be a screenshot from the talk, sir, but then it's better if you've digested something and have a new finding, especially if you link it to your experiences. So yes, please share the things you create. Alexis shares his newsletter. Diane
But
she
guys,
retweets Cat Boys. Um, it's amazing. So yeah, like that's our challenge for you. And there's no other slide after this except for another thing about Developh and about questions. So I'll paste the poll Ev, so people who have questions can ask and we'll go.
vote the ones you want answered.
Yeah, I'll put the ones you want answered, so we'll go for that for the top questions. But yeah, please continue plugging the things you're working around. Core members will compile links. Um,
Okay. I'm stuck.
and we'll share it, even the Catboy one.
Okay. I'm looking for the Poliv right now. Ooh. A lot of them start up votes na. And they both about humility.
Yeah, so we can read our questions and then explore them. Do you want to answer this, Bianca?
How is humility important in branding? How do you integrate it? Um, Reflecting on one of the elements of resonance, I guess I talked about vulnerability. Um, I'd say one way of integrating it is like really documenting like your process, like including the failures. Um, for instance, when I was reading for one of the articles she wrote for the Developh Medium, designing for Developh, she didn't talk about just about how how the entire process works. She also worked about like what failed for the org, and I think those sharing that is not just like insightful value for the audience, it also how it helps humanize the org. Because again, we're seen as intimidating, even though we don't really feel like that. We feel like we're failing every time. How about
There's
you?
a follow-up to that also. How do you integrate humility in your branding? Like, I think it's something about my branding at least is like Bianca and I were supposed to like do something in the beginning where we're like um Bianca is very like I guess you're more humble in your personal brand. And I'm very blunt and straightforward because that's just the kind of person I am, sadly. And the way I think about humility is that I try to be like loud about my wins. Also like sensitive. If it's not a good time to share something, I will not. But also I'll be very transparent about my failures. So, for example, when I got into college, I wrote like so many blog posts about how the process sucked. Um, I just shared that all over. So there are like probably over 20,000 words on the internet about my like, college application process that I created as like insights to others. That was not only like technical and thorough and just like what I did, but also how I felt and all the downsides of it because those things aren't commonly discussed in that sphere. So that's something I did. When I wait, I have this thing. Maybe I should share it.
Wow.
Um, if I do a, if I have something, if I have like bad things that happen, I will document my failures because those are honestly more useful than like just sharing accomplishments, right? Like
Yeah.
telling people about how you failed and what you're gonna do moving forward to address it is so insightful. A baby version I have, aside from my specific failures, is that on my blog, I have a failure resume where I will literally like share everything
Oh, it's updated na.
everything
Last
major that I lost out on. And I do this from 2016. So this is like a screenshot from this is a very long screenshot. I don't know how I made it that long. About like the internships I applied to and how I applied to like over 400 internships and how I failed. Then I also wrote about what I would do better in my application process. Failure resume is very cool. I write about all the scholarship and talk rejections that happened to me, the org rejections that happened to me. So that's a nice way I keep myself in check. So I try to be very transparent about the things that I failed in. And especially as like students, it's easy to just like talk about like the cool things we've done and the things we've made. It's hard to like talk about like your shortcomings. So just try easing into that. Try to be raw. If you're comfortable with that. Because I feel like failures, especially as students, where it's medyo taboo, are some of the most valuable content that you can like share. Also, it's just fun to see how other people fail. It's fun to read about how I fail. So yeah.
Another upvoted question, also about introversion. Um, aside from Vegas, thank you for inspiring me as a fellow introvert. There's also is being an introvert sort of a roadblock in networking. What tips do you have for introverts? You want to answer this?
Are you asking that because you don't want to answer it? Okay.
Wait, I haven't answered mine. I just want to talk over. Yeah, gonna be polite.
Wait, you can answer first.
Okay. So for me, even though it's initially seen as a roadblock, for me, it's a blessing in disguise because it helps me like be more intentional about my connections. Because if you go to my LinkedIn, like compared to others, it's only like 100 like plus, not like the 500 plus like every influencer seems to have. So as an introvert, you don't really have the energy to spend in like connecting all the time. if people, and yeah, I really believe in quality over quantity. Kasi. So the little connections I'd have like with my internship bosses, or I'd like yeah, I'd like have like check-ins with them, like eat like lunches. And then I just ask them about um their lives, their experiences. Cause when I learned about their experiences, I got to learn a lot as well. Like just yeah, for instance, in my last internship, the bumpy career, like Justine Chua, she'd have like a check-in with me, and then I think she ended up like kind of roasting like my career because I was so unsure back then, and then I was so indecisive. I think I was near crying. But yeah, if it wasn't for that like really intense connection, I wouldn't have like become like the designer I am today. So yeah, as an introvert, my advice is cultivate what little you have and make it like 10 times the impact, you know?
Cultivate what little you have is so bold. Wait, for context, so I think you'll like this. Someone is asking what their MBTI is. So what's yours?
INFJ T. Turbulent. Yes.
INFJT advocate. I was INTP but I recently became ISFP I I'm looking at the website because I only know it by the picture. So I used to be a logician and I became adventurer. Share your MBTIs in chat. Yeah, I'm still on Bianca's LinkedIn. I'm so sorry. Maybe I can answer the networking one. I am still an introvert. I don't like talking to people, but I'm assertive and I think that helps. So just a note on that. Um, I don't think being an introvert is okay. Yeah, like being an introvert is a roadblock in situations where like you're in a career fair or where you're in like a mixer event. Like the fact that there are events just dedicated to meeting new people scares me. I don't go to those types of events, right? Where like you just like chat with different people and there's no direction. And like the purpose of it is to meet new people. I don't like that. So usually I don't go to parties, but um I don't think introverts are great for that situation because you're naturally doomed to fail there. Um what introverts are great at though is like actually zeroing in and investing in people. Especially because like you only have so much energy to talk to someone. What you can do is find someone you're really eager to know about. In context like an event or a webinar or like um, just like someone you see posting something online, and just have the courage to like message them, tell them what's interesting. And the fact that we're in quarantine and those kinds of networking situations are kind of gone, is definitely helpful to you as an introvert. Um, just like focus your energy on meeting someone and taking in something from someone you're very excited about. And you can do this in one-on-one situations, and no one else has to know what happens. So it is a roadblock in certain situations, but so find the kind of the events and scenarios where it's easier for you as an introvert to take like people in one-on-one. Um, so yeah. You also answered the question, Bianca. Don't say it's like Miss Universe. Yeah.
I did.
Oh, the I'm not gonna answer that.
Which one?
The what's your motto in life?
I'll think about it. We'll come back to that. Sorry. I'll look at the upvoted one. What do I do if I want to start building my brand and creating more content, but don't connect with my audience anymore? Should I start fresh? This reminds me of that one time in childhood. I used to have like an anime art account for my Insta. Then when I like made my personal, I got unfollowed by a lot of people. So yeah.
Oh, my Twitter, like right now, it started out as a Fallout Boy fan account. I literally just made it to talk about Fallout Boy. So if you scroll like down to my media, and it's easy because I don't have that much media. It's like it's pictures that aren't loading, so it means that like no one viewed it, and so they're just like destroyed my server. So no one even looked at my tweets back then. And it's literally just like me adding like Patrick Stump or Pete Wentz. Calling the names. That's literally how my Twitter started.
Yeah. So I guess our answer to that is don't be afraid to start fresh. Yeah, because like if you feel compelled to keep that like old perception of yourself, it's really gonna like drain you out and tire you. Like it's okay. Everyone grows out, grows up, like changes. It's natural, part of human life.
Oh yeah, and I didn't like restart my Twitter. Like my Twitter's still there. And the reason why I kept it is because from Fall Out Boy fan Twitter, I had like a few hundred followers. And like people from high school. So that helped me look more legit to people. I just unfollowed like all the dead and inactive accounts. And I just like I had a completely new audience, right? I was starting to think about tech and career and startups. And then I just like started generating new content so that my feed wouldn't look like it was just me thirsting for Fall Out Boy and My Chemical Romance. And then I just continued like making new content, and then it's just slowly shifting. And it was a process that took like a few years. So yeah, I have like 1,000 followers right now, which is cool. And apparently only a very small percentage of Twitter exists. And it really took time. Like the account's like pretty old. And I think just using your dead audience as a member credential is pretty useful. Um, but yeah. Also, on the topic of Twitter, something my participants do, right? Something that's cool is that they need to debate with Twitter. So they're planning to go like inactive for a bit. Um, so it preserves your followers, and no one will notice that you disappeared, except for like their account dropping, but they can't really tell. So that's also an option. If the platform's today. And also just being very upfront about about why you're switching, why you're going on hiatus. Also helps.
Any
Um,
other?
I I think a good next question is no, it wasn't upvoted, but I think it's interesting. Do you think there's ever a point where selling out may be necessary and possibly even more beneficial to you in the long run?
Wow, that is. Hmm.
It's like, let's go to our definition of selling out, right? And selling
Yeah.
out is essentially you not being true to yourself. Um,
Mm.
like the first sort of scenarios that come to mind about like a scenario of selling out that might be beneficial to you is like motivated by finances and money. And if that's what you truly need, then of course it makes sense to do that. Um, but if every you have the privilege of not being like binded to that, um, like then I don't think that you should put yourself in situations where you do work that you hate or where you're not true to yourself, because you end up like performing less. You end up underperforming. I mean, you end up being like,
Yeah. It's
yeah,
just, especially for an introvert, it's really tiring to like keep up a facade, facade. How do you pronounce it for so long?
yeah. And if your career like is built on a foundation of selling out,
It'll eventually break.
your journey is then your entire journey is kind of fraudulent, right? So I don't really know how that would be beneficial. Especially if the story you end up crafting is something
Yeah.
that's like not representative of you at all. So maybe yeah. So if you have the privilege of not being like dependent on money, and being offered like a lucrative opportunity that is against your principles, then yeah, I don't think that selling out is ever beneficial, because at no point in your career journey when you start and predicate on selling out will you be genuine, unless maybe you suddenly make a huge career change and then say, okay, everything I built talking about in the last like X years is a lie. But that probably won't happen and you'll lose out on your audience. So rather take like the slow journey. Maybe that makes sense. Since your professional self can be your authentic self, would it be alright to merge your art to your personal account? Just one
Uh,
thoughts on this.
I think it depends on the person. For me, I separated it because I really prefer like compartmentalizing like my personal life and my professional life. I'm really like specific about that. So yeah, there are instances when like people in my family don't really know what I do. But I do know like some creatives like who've done like the combination of like that very well. As an example of my favorite artist, she combines like both personal, like like the nation drive she's doing and her art too. But I noticed now there's like a focus on her art because that's really what people like follow her for. Just make sure to strike like a fine balance.
Yeah, right. And okay, I'm not an artist, so I don't like have art accounts. And but like basically my equivalent is like Twitter, right? And I don't have like a fan Twitter. Like if I fan, I will do it on my main, where I also talk about career stuff. So I yeah, I joined it through. But then in this situation where you're an artist and you have like two separate accounts, I don't think it's necessary that like you lose out on being your authentic self if they're distinct. Because like one feed, like it's kind of necessary that one feed is like selfies and photos of you and your friends, and then the other is like your art in a comprehensive view. But then when you share your art, you're still like your art is not like your art is still yourself. And if at least if you're authentic in your captions, and then the advocacies you espouse, and the causes you talk about, then I think you're still like being genuine. It's just like a necessary divide, but then like yeah, yeah.
Any other cool questions?
There was another question. What if employers are turned off by how goofy or memey I guess someone can be? Um, Maybe I can talk about this then you can add on. Um, so like a point earlier in the talk was like it's best to present how you are authentically to employers, because if the employer doesn't like who you are as a person, then it's probably not ideal for you to work with them. And being like goofy and memey, you can totally be that in your professional accounts. You can totally be that like in your Facebook that people see. You just have to make sure that you're also like that it's not like overtaking your professional life. Like obviously you don't share memes for no reason on LinkedIn. But then in the right spaces for it, you can, which means like Twitter, it can be merged. Your Facebook where people friend you, it can be merged. It's only fine to do that. And if there's a place that doesn't like you because you share like funny things, or have a sense of humor, then it's probably not ideal to be in there. Um, of course, if you're sharing like offensive things, that's a different story. But then, yeah, I don't think employers would be turned off actually. I think also a lot of workplaces that I'm eyeing on, if you honestly just like find employees who work there, you'll definitely find people who have very refined and compartmentalized, like Bianca says, presences, but you'll also find people who are so vocal um, about like hating their job even, or just like they'll literally just talk about memes and then just have their employer in their bio, even if they produce content that has no relation at times. That's very normal, I think. Okay, I think that's all.
Wait. One. Can we do one more or
Yeah, yeah.
can't? Olive right now.
Oh, sure,
If,
sorry.
if we're still in the learning stage, parenthesis, not very used to content creation, and parenthesis, soaking everything up, where,
Well,
how do you suggest we start so that we can help initiate discussions? There's an article I shared in Developh community a while back. It's about how why beginners should teach. Wait, I will send it. And I really found it relevant especially for personal branding. Because like we said, documenting your journey as a, whether you're like creative or like struggling to like code, something like that, people love seeing that because I believe like the internet is saturated like people who feel like who seem like they're so good at like everything. It really intimidates people from like starting at their craft. So yeah, what I advise, you can do like an article of like, oh, I'm doing this challenge, I'm struggling with this, like learning how to do this. You can initiate discussions with like other fellow like beginners, like go to forums for like a certain software. What? How about you, Chia? What do you suggest?
Wait, this question is the one about the learning stage, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, so if you're in the learning stage, for example, if you're starting to learn about product design, if you're starting to learn about community building and are still like reading articles, I think a great way to start with content creation is honestly just sharing your learnings from the articles. So something I mentioned is like literally Facebook. People just share articles without reading. A great way to start is just like sharing the article but sharing your takeaways and summaries. Gwen is someone who does that when she shares things, which is so cool.
Yeah, so good. Like having summaries or insights of something, it really like helps a lot of people. Because again, attention span, you know.
Yeah, and like Alexis mentioned, everyone is always in the learning stage. You never stop learning. But I guess here, so they're pointing out like they're still like they're just absorbing things, but they're not confident yet in the field of expertise where they're also generating things. So yeah, definitely just share what you find most insightful, especially as you're learning a lot. Start your favorite articles, and that's where you start. Where you can help initiate discussions. So your personal feed is like usually just like your friends and family, right? So a good way to find communities is like finding Slack groups related to your niche, or find Facebook groups. Facebook is like go-to place for communities, especially local. And then honestly, just like yeah, share articles, and then you'll be surrounded by people who are also very excited about learning about that topic. And then yeah, you'll start having discussions with them, and you'll start learning with people who are interested in that topic and have their own insights and views. Share things with your friends. Your friends should be passionate about your friends should not necessarily have the same interest as you, but they should be passionate about how you're passionate in things. So if you want to share something really cool with them, like honestly just share an article and tell them why it's super cool. Even if they don't super understand it. And that's also a way to initiate a discussion. But yeah, finding Facebook groups, sharing on your feed, especially on Facebook or Twitter, are good ways to start and share the things that are most valuable to you. Yeah.
Ooh, I think that's pretty. Did we answer this? How to find your niche, but no clue where to start? Oh, I think we did in a presentation.
Oh, kinda. Maybe you can share, Bianca, how you found your niche.
Okay, so right now I consider my niche like I like designing for tech, but like the human side of it. And I guess I did it by doing like this really intense analysis of like all the content I was consuming, like newsletters, subscriptions, books, and then parang I found like common themes within it. Like again, have those like guide questions like guide you. Like what would you never stop like talking about? Like to the point now your friends are like, shut up, just keep talking about it. It's so annoying. Cause once you find that kind of passion that becomes your niche, if if no one else can beat you in talking endlessly about it, then congrats. Yeah. So I guess example like Josh, I'd say his niche is like politics than like the memes.
Just make Josh
of
co-host
it.
again. Make Josh talk.
Like,
Josh is
if you
uni.
follow
You wanna
his
talk?
Twitter, yeah, go to it right now. Like his commentary is so good. Because
Josh, if you
politics
wanna
is
talk, just say
so
some chat. So we'll give you
intimidating for many people.
Oh
But
God,
like
I've been summoned.
another speaking engagement by Josh Bal.
Y'all really. No, but I like teaching for like. Wait, why are y'all muted? What ganon? What? Wait, okay. What do I talk about? Well, not me
What's your
speaking.
niche?
Oh, my niche. Okay. So, you know how like long story short, I didn't want to take up political science. Like there's a long story about me ending up with a political science major. But I really wanted to take literature. So, ayun, it's just me, right? I guess my niche is like political theory. But it's like kasi a lot of people get turned off by political theory, especially like, girl, who wants to talk about politics? Like, yeah, we get it. Man is a political animal, and I want to be a bacteria around it. So parang everyone wants to avoid politics, but then at the same time, politics is anything, and it controls most, if not all, the things in the world. So I guess yun nga, making the discussion of politics like ano ba, yun, parang removing a band-aid slowly, but at the same time parang I don't know, me being like making people comfortable with talking about politics, like kasi a lot of us know so much about politics, but we just don't know it. It's like there's this one podcast kasi, which is like this professor that compared his experience of teaching Marxism in a college class and in prisons. So when he taught Marxism in prisons, the inmates were like, "Oh, why'd you have to tell us that? That's pretty obvious." But then college students are like confused about Marxist theory. So parang everyone has that certain point of awareness about politics. You just have to uncover it by making politics more friendlier and digestible, easy to understand. That's why like when I tweet memes about political economy, it's probably gonna be with a reaction video on Twitter with like I don't know, some gay ass memes about like drag race. And oh yeah, by the way, I teach dialectical materialism and drag race. So comparing like Marxist theory and like how RuPaul's Drag Race season 12 works. So ayun, like because dialectical materialism is a philosophy that affects everything, and like if you can apply Marxism to anything, you can certainly apply it in drag race. So for example, oh my god, so there's this one competitor. See, y'all watch Drag Race, so you know Crystal Method, right? Crystal Method in Drag Race is like she's like one of the queens. Okay, sorry spoilers. Ano ba yun? So Crystal Method was like top 3 of Drag Race season 12. But then she was conceived like as an underdog, ganon. Because a lot of people thought na parang she was too messy, ganon. So dialectical materialism basically is the dialectics of like context and how the world is comprised of changes, and like the only thing constant in the world is change. So with that, parang there in dialectical materialism, there has to be a qualitative leap and a quantitative change. So there are two types to like dictate if something changed dialectically. Wait lang. Turn on my video so I don't look weird. Hello. Oh god. There's a ketchup stain on my shirt. But okay. So the dialectics of drag race, basically Crystal Method was like an underdog ganon. So you have to take note of qualitative change and qualitative leap and then quantitative change. So quantitative is basically numbers, but qualitative is like your development as a person. So in Crystal Method's Drag Race run, she was always like at the first week she was at the bottom and no one expected her to like get into the top until this one challenge, which was like a stand-up comedy thing. And she was so nervous about it because the last time she did a challenge on like a live acting thing, parang she failed. She was at the bottom. So she got scared na baka she might cheat during her stunt in the stand-up comedy challenge. So what she parang RuPaul, parang she was like, girl, why are you so nervous? Yeah, the one where she did the jerk, and then she was like, and that's the one with Whoopi Goldberg rin pala, no? So and then she was like, oh, I'm so nervous lang, and then actually RuPaul's parang advice to her was actually find your niche. So she did, and we can explain parang the dialectics of her run in the competition. So with that, she started like rising up. Like the last few challenges, she was on the top. So with that, parang Marxist theory na parang concrete practice improves concrete theory. So with learning yung parang tips on how to do better, she was able to concretize the theory and documenting takeaways ganon into like practice, which was what she did by like letting go, just being herself, finding your niche ganon. So she actually won the episode and nobody expected it. So it ano not only did a quantitative change with her track record being like or her track record improving, she also did a qualitative leap because her confidence like got boosted, and that's how you apply dialectical materialism in drag race competitors. See, Marxism, or you know how like philosophy, a lot of people are like, I want to challenge your thought, and like everyone keeps on making like dissertations and like debunking each and every philosophical thought. No one can do that about Karl Marx because this dude literally, you can't deny that there is quantitative changes and qualitative leaps happening, and those dictate the inner workings of the world, especially the conflict of the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Oh God, no, not someone sending. Oh God, but but yeah, that's all. I actually have so much like ayun, and I teach it in Tagalog, so if y'all wanna you know something, kasi even I like cry. Oh God. Oh God. I have two panels tomorrow. Share ko lang. I mean, let me cry. Let me cry. But yeah, that's all. So that's my niche. Especially, yeah, since as an LGBT person of color, oh my God. Like, ayun. Being, yun nga, you have to like, explain how politics, yun nga, kasi politics involves everything eh. Especially as a queer person, parang, oof, politics is hell. That's the reason why a lot of people are homophobic. So, ayun, you have to explain na parang class struggle is important, the LGBT movement, and that's why you use gay people as examples. So, that's why I also use, what other TV shows do I use for this? Not just Drag Race eh. I remember a movie. Oh yeah, Disney also. I think I kind of did Frozen also, for like dialectical materialism. So with Madonna there. As Madonna said, we live in a material world, and she's a material girl. You don't want to see my slides for this. Oh God. Oh God. Do I share it?
My
Hold
mind.
on. Guess you have to go to the. Guess you have to go to this lecture. Wait, hold on. Hold on. On practice. Okay, hold on. Opo. I hope it's here. Oh, it's here. Okay, I'll share it lang. May I have permission to screen? God. God, oh no. Why'd y'all let me talk? No, no, no. Why? Why? So this is what it looks like. So you see Madonna, Madonna with a mouth cap on, and then hot styling. Oh yeah, this is also sorry, I'm sorry. So I really put memes on my presentations, and I have like, we're planning to make this 4 hour educational discussion because it's based on meme. So it doesn't have content. I mean, it has like context, but like it's just pure meme. So since you know, I was previously the educational discussion officer working with a handful of people, like looking for memes, trying to fill up this whole thing. Yeah. Oh yeah, this was what I talked about a while ago. The quantitative change and qualitative leap. Wherein ayun. Oh god, not me talking. No. Oh god, this was a whole thing. And yeah, just basically the moral of the story is if you don't believe nobody perfect because we are all in a what do you call this way of growth ganon. So I don't know growth I guess. So ayun, just my slides. Yeah, just my highlight. I mean, my gay ass really relate Madonna into Marxist theory. So we won, girl. So and why y'all let me talk in every single opportunity, y'all? Oh my god. But I'll advertise the community panel tomorrow.
Yeah, Josh is speaking tomorrow at 3.
Yeah,
We won't
That was
move this
yeah.
fun.
time.
That was
And then
fun,
after
guys.
that, if y'all haven't had enough, watch me talk about COVID at 6 p.m. at another Discord server. My God. So I'm
Send
gonna
us the link
tackle
and then
over.
we'll share it.
Sure, sure, sure. Eee. Oh my God.
Okay, we
We're
can
gonna
end
cry.
here after the RuPaul
If
Oh
you
my
want
God, wait, I just
quantitative
realized this is recorded
analysis.
your
on
personal
Facebook,
branding
no?
guide,
Yeah,
Oh
it's also
God.
live on Facebook. So
What? Mom? Mom? Oh my God. Wait. Mama mo on Facebook Live. Proud ka ba sa anak mo? I don't think. Oh my God. Anyway, so, wait, I'll send the link. Ooh. Hold on. There. But I'm glad you guys enjoyed the RuPaul's Drag Race dialectical materialism thing. That's why we always ask during discussions like, "Oh, what's your favorite thing?" Or like, so we like gear our examples toward the interests of people, so they actually understand the thing. And ayun, we're really just like sobrang magulo during EDs, like discussions, because we want to be in a comfortable space because we take up like what 2 hours. We had 2 hours to discuss like political theory and yeah, that's my niche. Trying to work on it, especially next sem since I'm taking so much courses that are related to my major. So oh my god, if you like dialectical materialism and you know it, clap your hands. Honestly, yes. Amen. But ayun, why y'all let me talk?
we're not gonna cut this out of the recording. We're
No
just
one's
gonna leave it
leaving.
in.
No one's leaving. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. If you
Actually,
guys have other like queer related shows that I can make samples with, I mean yeah. Ako ba? You'll have some like TV shows, anime. Cause okay, I just finished this anime. Rising of the Shield Hero. Y'all have watched it, but there is a dialectical materialism application in that, and I would like to still drafting. I was like, I just finished the show, so I still have my notes in my head. It was an okay anime, but yeah, I can't believe y'all indulge this. Like honestly, and how do y'all do this? How? I'm still I'm still. Why'd y'all let me talk? God. Oh
Wait, okay. It's
my god.
11:20 p.m. for you guys. But please catch Josh at
It's
our
11:19.
channel.
Yeah. I haven't
Fine,
watched One Piece.
11:19. Please catch Josh at the community panel tomorrow at 3, where he will probably overtalk again. But I'm so excited for that.
No.
So the topic
I'm
tomorrow is
timing
like,
myself, promise. I timed myself during the advocacy panel. So I wouldn't last 2 minutes. I'd last like 2 minutes explaining base and superstructure. So no.
if
Promise, I'm
you
gonna
signed
time
up,
myself. I'm gonna time.
I hope you do. We'll
Oh
time
my
you.
god. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
if you signed up for the assembly, we sent the email now with details for tomorrow also. So there's also a writing talk at 8. But hope to see you guys there. And thank you for still sticking around, even if this was an unnecessarily long Q&A.
That was
This
really
is
long.
very
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, our talk was 2 hours.
Q&A, pina-unmute yung mga attendees.
We just love dumping our knowledge and passion and everyone. But thank you everyone for coming. See you at the rest of our events and our
Sorry,
GA
friend.
on August 15th, Saturday.